But Robbo, we have to start with the Europa League final on Wednesday night. It went to penalties, and Sevilla 7 times out of 7 have now won this competition, which I find absolutely mind-blowing. Is it Unai Emery? Is it this guy? Is it that guy? No, clearly it's Sevilla. It's that red and white. It's that kind of stardust. I mean, they were deserving. Would you say, in terms?
They were deserving. Not the first 30 minutes, because they couldn't find a way to break down Roma, and Roma had 1 or 2 opportunities. But Mendilibar did, I thought, the right thing at half-time. He made a couple of substitutes, and it wasn't just the personnel, it was the way they played in the second half, or the way they found space out in the wide area, particularly down the right-hand side. And they got more players into the box. They got their fullbacks higher up the field. Fernando played just in front of the 2 centre-halves, so they could get their fullbacks higher up, and got more crosses into the box. Because in the first half, when they did that, En-Nesyri was isolated. Hill was playing too wide. Campos was playing too wide, but in the second half they got more players into the danger area, and they looked a much better and they kept the pressure on. So when Roma cleared it, they got onto the next ball and got another cross into the box.
What struck me about this, though, is you talked about how Mendilibar made adjustments. I mean, I agree with you. I thought Roma came out of the gates really well.
Yeah.
Based on the standard where they played, they got the big lift from being able to start Dybala, and then in the second half, they just get sucked back, and it follows a certain script that we've seen with Mourinho, which I don't have an issue with it because it often does work, which is sit back, wait for the moment, wait for the set piece, wait for Dybala to do something. And you know what? Mourinho can go back, and we'll get to the referee in a minute because he had an issue with that. He can go back and he can say, you know what? All you people out there who talk to me about which side was more attacking and this and that, why don't you go back? Both teams hit the woodwork once, right? Roma scored a goal. Yeah. Sevilla had an own goal, which, dangerous cross into the box, but an own goal I think is always unlucky when your defender can't clear it. And then the next 2 best chances in the game were both Roma's, right? Belotti's one at the end where Bono made a very good save. And that almighty goal mouth scramble where both Tammy and then Ibanez couldn't score. So if you break it down like this, if you break it down into who had the better chances, could Mourinho not say, I'm vindicated?
Not really, because...
Respect! Respect!
Not for Mourinho's... In the first half, they should have carried on playing like they did in the first half, where they still played with 2 up front. They pressed the ball higher up the field. It meant that when Sevilla were trying to play through them, it wasn't particularly easy to play through them. They were compact, but they were also ready to counter-attack. The deeper they got, and he just didn't adjust to what Mendilibar did in the second half by getting more players out in the wide area, creating an overload and getting more crosses into the box. And that was the disappointing thing. Years ago, Mourinho, I always thought, was a master tactician. He made quick decisions. I'm going to change that. I'm going to take him off after 30 minutes because that's not working. I'm going to do this. When he was at Chelsea, I thought everything he did usually came off. I look at him now, and most things, when I watch Roma this season, I'm not quite sure what their game plan is. And that's always a worry when I look at a manager.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. I'd throw in, too, by playing so deep. I mean, Roma's biggest attacking threat, once Dybala come off, and, once Pellegrini, he also came off, is always Spinazzola. When you defend so deep with 5, it means that when you win the ball back, Spinazzola has to go, and he's got to cover so much ground to even get to try to press.
Yeah.
And you're hurting yourself. Now I don't know. They had I watched it on Ryan Italian television. And they had a pitchside reporter, and the pitchside reporter kept saying, "Oh, Mourinho's telling his men, like, guys, don't defend too deep. Don't defend too deep." So Mourinho, I mean, assuming this reporter was making it up, Mourinho realized that they were defending too deep, and yet the players couldn't execute. Did the players is this how players' mind work? They just get sucked back. They get pushed back. What is it?
I thought it said everything by the way they celebrated Dybala's goal. In their minds, they celebrated the goal as if they'd won the game. Now they're not going to. Sevilla won't score. They won't break us down. We're good enough defensively to win the game now from 1-0. And from that point on, Sevilla looked a much better side. The last 5-10 minutes of the first half, and for the rest of the game, they looked the more threatening, despite the chances that Roma had. I thought Sevilla always looked the side that we're going to get more balls into the box, going to be more threatening, and cause more problems.
Mourinho hugely unhappy with the referee after the game. We'll tell you about what happened when he confronted Anthony Taylor afterwards in the car park. I'll just give you a little taste from my perspective. 2 big decisions in the game. Taylor got them correct. Beyond that, in the game management, not a great night for Anthony Taylor. But there'll be much more on this on the Gab and Juls podcast.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.